I tested out the Muse S Athena headband. It's a brain sensing device, and I'm going to share my experience with you. I'm Dr. Thomas Withyman. I've spent decades exploring ways to optimize social and psychological health, both for myself and for my clients. So, this is the continuation of my series where I test out something that looks promising, and then I see what happens. Because I feel like we can always grow, and there's always more to learn. Thanks to Muse for sponsoring this video and providing me with their newest product, and allowing me to give my genuine personal reaction to it. I'm always on the lookout for new things or research that might be helpful. In this video, I'm going to get into what Muse is and how it works under the hood, what we can use it for, and then what has and has not been helpful in my experience. If you haven't heard about the Muse S Athena device before, then I'm going to explain a little bit about what it is. I really hadn't come across Muse until about a year ago. So it looks like something John McEnroe would wear, but it's actually a really impressive device. It is, believe it or not, a portable EEG device. It's able to pick up the electrical activity of the brain through the scalp. But as well as that, it also has fNIRS, which means it is sensing the blood oxygenation in the frontal lobe. And it can tell your heart rate and how much you're moving. These sensors that you can see in gold, they read the brain's electrical activity across the front here and behind the ears. So they're able to pick up the different brain waves. As you can see, the actual device is really small. It charges by USB-C. What have you done? It connects back with magnets. How do those work? And by connecting to your cell phone, it allows the Muse to work as a biofeedback or a neurofeedback device. I have done the full head EEG, which obviously is getting a lot more information. This device, yeah, it is not covering the entire head with all that information, but it's portable and you can keep it at home. Muse has been used in a ton of published research studies, many of which Muse themselves was not involved in, because having a portable EEG device is just really useful. Knowing this, let's talk about my actual experience engaging with this product. The model they sent me is their newest model that's called the Muse S Athena. So the S part is because it is a sleep tracker. It keeps track of your EEG information overnight as you sleep. It also has the ability to use what they call a digital sleeping pill. Really is they are listening to where your brain is and giving you audio that will help you fall asleep. The Athena part of this is the fNIRS training, where you're trying to fly an owl through a type of neurofeedback where you're trying to increase attention focus. When you open this app, you realize there's a lot of different directions that you can take the device. For me, I wanted to go into the meditation because I have meditated for many years, but I've never gotten any data. You pick a soundscape and you are led through to begin meditating. When you start meditating, you get this biofeedback based on what the Muse is sensing from your brain. When you are starting to get away from being in the brain state they want you in, you'll notice that the background environmental sounds get louder. If you then start to get that focus back, that restful focus, you'll notice that the environmental sounds calm down. And when you're in that state they want you in, for more than a few seconds, you'll start to hear birds chirping. So that's your reward. For those of you who are like me and really want to dig into the details on this, as far as the brainwave power bands, what they are trying to reinforce, from what I can tell, is a higher level of alpha with a lower level of theta and a moderate but stable level of beta. We don't want too much delta either, so because that's sleepiness. So the Muse device, with their neurofeedback reinforcement, they are trying to move us away from either too activated and thinking too much or drowsy and sleepy, and they're trying to move us into the space of relaxed wakefulness. And the reason they want us there, I think this is a really interesting story, is because they analyzed the brain readings of a whole bunch of expert experienced meditators and then beginner meditators. And they looked at what made the experienced meditator's brain stand out. What they're trying to do is nudge us to look a little less like an beginner meditator and a little more like an experienced meditator. So that is what that calm score is communicating to us. By the time you finish one of these things, you will see there is a percentage calm score. And that really means how long were you in that relaxed wakefulness calm zone? Steady focus without sleepiness. So what you'll notice in that description was nothing about the spiritual process of anything, right? This is just looking at meditation as a type of brain training and giving us brain data to let us know how it's going. So we're talking about meditation, but because this really is brain training and data gathering, we can use that information for a bunch of other things too. So when you finish doing an exercise with the Muse, you'll see you have access to data at the end. One of these is called Alpha Peak, which they describe as a cognitive performance score. So this actually comes from a bit of a research base. So in the research base, they will refer to it as peak alpha or peak alpha frequency. And it basically means where in that alpha range kind of is it the strongest for you. This is relevant because a higher score on this is associated with improved cognitive performance. So things like memory and attention, processing of information. So this is relevant for us. While there is some data that suggests that we might be able to improve this with neurofeedback over time, I find it more useful to think about it as a marker, as a way of tracking our cognitive performance at the time. In the Muse app, they will show you at the end where your score for that session is falling compared to your average. And it might give you some information back as to what is going on in the present for you that might be affecting how your brain performance is. I noticed that based on what particular activity I was doing for my tracking, and based on how much I've been working, how exhausted I was, how I'd slept, that my alpha peak scores could be pretty high or pretty low. That gave me some useful data, I think. The other more recently introduced metric that you'll see is called the brain recharge score. So Muse refers to it as a way of measuring your brain's ability to rest and recover. So to contrast it with the alpha peak, that is your ability to perform. And then this brain recharge is your ability to recover. So I wanted to understand what they were getting at with this. Like, what is this actually looking at and measuring? And it looks like they're measuring your average alpha power. So this is in that alpha band. What is the total power that you have there? When I looked into the research, I saw that having more power in that alpha band was associated with being more relaxed, less stressed, less anxious. So things that I personally care about a lot. I do want to have more alpha power. What I also saw in the research is that this alpha power, it differs naturally between individuals. So I think that's why when you look at the score in Muse, you don't just see your single score, you see this range. Because what they're wanting to do, I think, is help you move up to the higher ends of your range. Again, I found getting this data useful for tracking. It would tell me on a brain level, was this a day where maybe I was experiencing more stress, more anxiety, or perhaps I hadn't slept very well? In which case, what should I be doing to respond to that? And knowing this would help me understand how much to push and then how much to choose my recovery activities. And it's also something that I want to figure out what things that I do or don't do can help to boost this over time. So if I can see, oh, there were certain days where I had much higher scores on this, what had I been doing? What activities was I practicing? So let's get into what my personal experience of this was. So I will tell you, when I first got this device, I was really excited. When I opened the app and went to get started, I was surprised how much there was here. There was a lot of different directions to go with this thing, which is both a pro and a con. On the pro side of this, I've tried out multiple devices that there just isn't a lot to them. And so I've used it for a bit and then stopped. There is so much to it. It has been around for so long. They've built up this ecosystem. There are so many different things I could have gotten into with the Muse S Athena that for the weeks that I engaged with it, I really had to kind of pick and choose what I wanted to invest in. I will let you know, as we were getting towards the end of the time I had testing this out, Muse introduced their own AI called Enso, and I use that thing so much. I had so many questions about a lot of the background and questions about my data that was coming up that I didn't know easily how to get to. And this AI has been super, super useful in being able to give me that information back. So I would ask him, what are you seeing in my brainwave power bands? And how does that relate to what you're wanting to see? How similar is it to the expert meditators? So I found it helpful to have him give me numbers. One of the things that I found a bit challenging at first was when I did the meditation training, if you are outside of the range they want you in, the environmental noise, so like the rain, for example, gets louder and louder. I was not super into that because it would make me not calm. It would make me a little more stressed out. So I'm like, oh, I'm doing this wrong. It's loud and distracting. What I did to fix that, luckily, is there's a button you can press in the training, and you can go in and you can really personalize what you want the feedback to be. So what I would do is I would go in and I would turn down, say, the rain noise so that I could sense it, but it wasn't disruptive. And I would turn up the birds. The reinforcement was louder and more obvious. So one thing I noticed a few times when I would be doing the meditation training specifically, at some point, maybe 2/3 of the way through the session, I would suddenly have these experiences of joy arising, to just this really kind of pleasurable joy popping up. One time I was in a bad mood and I was kind of ruminating about something, and I thought it'd be interesting to do the Muse and see what the results would be. It was interesting because I did 2 meditations. By the second meditation, I noticed my rumination was dropping way down and my mood was starting to lift. And then I tried out the owl fNIRS game. And by the end of that, I think because of the focusing, I was not thinking about the stuff at all. I wasn't ruminating, and I felt really good. And I was like, this is a good use case. If I'm in a bad mood, I should probably get the Muse out. The sensors, they are finicky. Especially I found the ones behind the ears. If any hair gets in the way, it has a hard time connecting. I also struggled with the one up here. So what I found was that I guess I expected it just to be like instantly sensing the whole time, but I had to be patient and figure out how to do it. And I realized I had to stay pretty still. The more that I moved, it would kind of like lose the connection and I'd have to wait until it found it again. Also, you can't use it while you're walking on the treadmill. I tried. One thing I would love for Muse to add to this would be an eyes open brainwave training. So they have it with the fNIRS, with the blood oxygenation. They have that owl game where your eyes are open and you're getting visual feedback. I would love to have that with, say, getting into the alpha bands or trying to get to that calm state, but with your eyes open. Because I would love to be in that state with my eyes open as well. I will note, Muse only does audio feedback for this stuff, from what I can tell. But Alpha Beats, they do have eyes open training. One thing that I think makes the Muse so powerful is they are not a closed system. They allow all these third parties to use the Muse. This really, to me, is the biggest strength of Muse, is that it is this portable brain data device. And they allow these other companies to use it in other useful ways, for neurofeedback or for tracking of different kinds. And they even have the ability, because of this third-party integrations, if you can open this up here, and you can add an extra sensor, and you can actually do clinical neurofeedback with this through a company called MindLift, which I'm also very interested in looking into. I was really interested to look at the various psychological and meditation activities that I already do, and then seeing how those showed up in the brain data through the Muse. Because I have a lot of different types of meditations that I do, like somatic meditations, emotion-based meditations, mantra meditations, and a bunch of other mental activities that I do. So for me, it was great to be able to look at the data after doing each of those and see how it was different. I've been meditating for 20 years, on and off, like all humans. We fall off the wagon, then we try to get back on again. And I noticed when I'd meditate, sometimes you wouldn't recognize when you've gone off thinking about something and you've lost your focus. And a lot of times I would notice that I would get sleepy, and I wasn't kind of sure what that was doing, whether that was good or not. So I noticed when I would meditate with the Muse, it was a very particular sort of meditation, because the feedback it would give me, I would not go off into thinking about something else. I would certainly not get sleepy. It really helped me do a focused meditation. You do not need to get the Muse S Athena device to meditate well. People have been meditating for thousands of years with great benefits. I will say too, having the device made it more fun to meditate, maybe more eager to go meditate. So I was more reliably doing it for the period of time that I've had this for. So if you want some gamification or encouragement to kind of keep you on track, then this might help. If you're somebody like me who is interested in brain training, psychological health, physical health, there's a lot that you can do with this device. Where I think the Muse S Athena really shines is if you want to get data. There is so much that we can do with this portable EEG and fNIRS device that we can use this in a whole bunch of different ways. So for me, I like being able to use it to test out different activities that I'm doing. For a long time, I've been doing tests on myself, and I get pen and paper results. I get introspection results. I get how I feel. What I don't have is brain data. So I have started thinking about this alongside things like my HRV monitor. I'm thinking of it as being part of my psychobiological information that I use to make decisions in my life. So if I'm getting information from my cardiovascular system and my brain, I'm going to put it together. It's going to tell me what I should be doing that day, that week, that month. That is where I think this is really useful. Personally, my prediction is that I will be using this quite a lot in the future. I mentioned before, there's many things I get, I don't use them very long. I think this one will be sticking around for a while, so well, I'll check in and let you know in the future. If this does sound like you, then head over to Muse to receive 15% off your order with the discount code Dr. Thomas, or visit the link below. Using the Muse gave me a much clearer picture of what my brain is doing, but the device is only part of the story. The bigger question is what you can do with that awareness in your daily life. So if you want to understand some more research-backed ways to recharge your mind, not just relax, but recover in a way that restores focus, energy, and motivation, watch this video next. It walks you through the 4 pathways that make a real difference.